I welcome everybody today to our third part in our four-part series. So today, as Rebecca mentioned, let's just get started here. So I'm going to go through and we're going to identify how warehouses are reopening from the pandemic, and also explain some best practices as it relates to security measures to better help hospitals maintain efficiency. I'll also give you a sneak peek of our new mask detector camera that we have launching towards the end of this month. And we'll do a real deep dive on the thermal solution for temperature measuring. So without further ado, let's get started here. So as you all know, with most states across the nation starting to relax their orders for closures, and more people are really starting to venture outside the stay-at-home orders, businesses are not only trying to figure out how to reopen, but also how to stay open in the event of a second wave. And if you've been keeping up with the news, you will have seen that, Beijing is actually reintroducing stricter lockdown measures and rolling out mass testing after they discovered a new cluster of cases that just emerged from the city's largest wholesale food market. So it's tough because people are really trying to reopen and get the economy back, but also there's concerns that social distancing may be causing a second wave to come about. So unfortunately, as people do start heading back to work, and according to OSHA, most American workers will likely experience a low to medium exposure of risk at their place of employment. So it's really essential for businesses to consider and follow the CDC guidelines. So the effects from COVID-19 have been inconceivable. And as I mentioned, the good news is that all states are in various stages of starting to reopen. However, some new infections have hit some record highs in about 6 states over the past week. So again, as economies start to reopen, there's also some states that are hitting some highs there. And so therefore, in preparing to plan to reopen, businesses really need to strive at trying to reduce transmission among their employees and maintain healthy business operations and healthy work environments. But this may be easier said than done. So thermal technology is one approach that is helping businesses to keep patients and staff safe. And thermal technology is really not anything new. And in fact, it was used during the outbreak of SARS several years ago as a way to detect fevers. And in fact, because fevers are associated with illness and the fact that outbreaks have been occurring every couple of years, having a temperature monitoring solution in place is really a proactive approach for the future, such as when the flu season starts this fall. This type of solution can not only help during this pandemic, but in the future as well, as for catching fevers and hopefully being proactive in cross-contamination and furthering the spread. So there are some general practices for reopening, and there's a lot of things that businesses can do to reduce the risk of infection, such as installing plexiglass at the registration desk, like at a hospital, when people are checking in. You can also place decals on the floor when checking in at a medical center to help social distancing, and also require patients and employees to wear masks, and also install touchless hand sanitizer devices throughout the facility, and offering frequent breaks for employees to wash their hands, and even mandate more cleaning and deep cleaning, as well as screening employees and patients for elevated temperatures, such as when they're entering a medical facility, or when they're coming into work at a warehouse. So the ability to screen for temperatures ahead of time. Now, this ensuring that people are really following the rules. So this can be challenging, and as I said, easier said than done. And this is actually where Dahua can really help. So with our solutions, we can help to automate the requirements so that you and your staff can concentrate on getting back to their business and trying to, get back to normal processes versus manually taking temperatures and having to remind people to wear their mask, and also telling them when they can and can't enter certain high traffic areas, maybe like a cafeteria, such as a warehouse, or the cafeteria maybe in a very large hospital, due to capacity restrictions. So Dahua offers 4 solutions that can help to reopen or provide a higher efficiency when it comes to warehouses and medical centers. So the first one is our temperature thermal monitoring solution. And this one is more ideal for your larger facilities that has a constant flow of people that are coming in and out of a large location. So great for large warehouses and hospitals especially. Our second solution that is going to help, especially with efficiency, is our new 5 megapixel mask detector camera. And we haven't launched this one yet. It's going to be coming out within the next 2 weeks. And this will help to identify anyone who doesn't have a mask on. So it automatically announces through an external speaker that to remind them basically to put on a mask. So this could be put at the front of your entrance, or anywhere throughout a warehouse facility or throughout the hospital, as people tend to take off the mask for any reason and then maybe forget to put it back on. And then the third one is our flow control. So counting people to control the capacity versus someone actually having to physically stand at a door and manually counting the number of people coming in and going out. And then the last one that we have available is our thermal temperature station. And this is more ideal for smaller businesses, or maybe entrances where not as many people are coming through, like an employee entrance, or maybe even a small retail shop, or it could be a small medical office. So that's going to be ideal for that type of an application. So the first solution that I'm going to cover in more detail today is our thermal temperature monitoring solution. And this offers 3 devices here that you would need. So first of all, it's the camera. You're going to need a hybrid thermal camera, also a NVR that has face detection, and then our Blackbody calibrator that is a reference point for maintaining your temperature accuracy. So really the benefits of this solution is that it provides very high accuracy of 0.54, and the industry standard is actually 0.54 degrees. So we are right on par there for this type of a solution for this type of an environment to get people's temperatures in a non-invasive way. So it has EPOE technology. So what that is that allows you to convert coaxial infrastructure to pure IP, and also has the capability of going long distance transmission as compared to standard IP. So it can go up to 3 times longer transmission distance. You also have the ability to remotely view and configure using Dahua's DMSS free app. And the NVR, what it does is it captures the person's face. It detects who the person is. So if a temperature is caught that it's outside the user-defined value, it'll send an automatic alert. So this system, it has the ability to monitor multiple people at a time. So you have faster, more high efficiency, again, for areas that get more constant flow of traffic. And it can actually monitor up to 30 people per second. So it's much better than using a handheld solution, because with a handheld solution, you're going to get cross-contamination and potentially risk, the person that's taking temperatures. So this is a much safer, more efficient application. So with the efficiency of being just higher efficiency, in comparison to a manual handheld device, a manual temperature reading device like a standard thermometer takes a minimum of about 3 seconds per person to measure each individual person. So long lines can increase the risk for contamination, as I said, and also the ability to not be able to socially distance themselves as well. So with our solution, because it's higher efficiency, it has the capability of measuring multiple people per second. It has that high accuracy of 0.54 degrees Fahrenheit. You have the ability to get more people through your line much faster as compared to using a manual device. So let's just say, for example, you had 5,000 people coming through an area. It would take around 4.2 hours to get them all through using a handheld device. But with our temperature monitoring solution, efficiency is increased and simultaneously can measure multiple people per second. So you have a constant flow of traffic. And it has the ability to detect people at longer distances, so you have much a higher accuracy. Now, if a fever is detected, an instant alert, as I said, as well as the person's face is recorded and then sent, so personnel can actually use a secondary method, such as using a clinical grade thermometer to confirm the person's temperature to make sure that it's accurate. And so it's important to really understand that human bodies register different temperatures just depending on the method that's being used. So for example, we take for granted that 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit is a normal temperature, but this is really the average when using a calibrated oral thermometer. Now, if you would use a rectal or an ear method, you would notice that the temperature will vary between 0.5 to 1 degrees higher than that of an oral temperature reading. And if you would use the armpit or the forehead method, the temperature will be 0.5 to 1 degree lower than that of your oral temperature. So this is just something to keep in mind when you are confirming a person's high temperature, if they do end up going to the secondary method, and confirming that you take that into consideration as to what the output from the thermal monitoring solution is in comparison to how you're measuring the person's temperature in the secondary method. Now, probably the most accurate way of measuring a person's internal body temperature with a thermal camera is by measuring the inner canthus, which is part of the eye that includes the tear duct. Now, although Dahua's solution is capable of measuring multiple people at a time, like I said, if you want the very most accurate reading, it's going to be best for people to walk through a stanchion in a single file line and to remove any type of headgear or eye accessories so the camera can read from the eye area. Now, here is an example of where the person's eyes are not exposed. So at the top of the screen shots 1, 2, 3, and 4, you can see that the person's eyes are covered. So in the first one, you have glasses, and the second one, you have a brim of a hat. So it's going to be very difficult for the camera to read the eye area, that tear duct area. In number 3, you have the brim of the hat plus the glasses. And in number 4, you have a helmet and the glasses. So these are all examples where it makes it very difficult to measure the person's eye area. However, what it is doing, the Dahua camera, it actually uses an AI technology. So it initially tries to focus on the canthus of the eye, but if it's unable to visibly see that area, it has the ability to automatically adjust to the forehead area. So in this case, what it's doing is that it's not, these temperature readings are not the internal body temperature, because the eye area is not clearly exposed. So it's basically taking the person's external body temperature reading in comparison. So that's just something to keep in mind when you set up your system. But the other thing I want to point out in this picture, as you can see, is that this is a hot beverage that the person is carrying here, and also down in this photo, and it's not detecting that. So again, that just goes to show you that the system is looking, the camera is looking for the eye area. So you're not going to get a false reading from somebody carrying, a hot beverage. So we'll go into some of the vertical stuff now. Now, although this solution is not going to be suitable for every application out there, and that's why we offer, 4 different types of solutions to better help, in all types of applications. Some that will benefit, especially from this type of solution, is going to be, again, your larger, busier applications where you're getting a lot of traffic coming through. And ideally, again, it needs to be an indoor application where your ambient temperatures are somewhat stabilized. And so any type of application like an airport, terminals, medical centers, warehouses are great environments to install this type of solution. Now, for example, hospitals, as I mentioned, they actually started out doing manual fever checks at entrances at the initial beginning of the pandemic. However, as I mentioned, this really puts staff at unnecessary risk of exposure and also requires additional manpower. So here's an example of a couple of hospitals that are using the solution. The one in the right is a Czech Republic hospital. Down in the left, a hospital in Spain. And then over here to your right, it is the IU Health Simon Cancer Center in Indianapolis that is using this solution. So Dahua's hybrid thermal temperature monitoring camera offers a visible camera and then it also offers a thermal camera. So in this picture, you can see this one is your high def resolution, and so you see the visible image on the left-hand side, and then the thermal image on the right-hand side. And then this other picture is just showing the low res option as well. So the great thing about this camera is that it's hybrid. So you can use it for standard regular video surveillance because you have that visible camera, but then it also includes your thermal so that you're able to detect temperature. Now, for those that have privacy concerns, thermal technology has really made it possible to use video surveillance without violating patient privacy or HIPAA regulations, as long as it's not capturing any identifiable information, such as the person's name, their address, social security, phone number, anything like that. So if you have patients or your facility is worried about that, that's a good thing about the technology for the thermal. Now, if you have privacy concerns, because of the pandemic, on March 17th of this year, the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission issued an update indicating that employers may implement temperature screening measures in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, for those who have privacy concerns, the solution allows for privacy masking so that just the temperature is visible. So in this slide, you can see there's 3 different options. So the first option here is option 1. And so on the right-hand side where you're seeing your thermal, you can see that the person's face is visibly blacked out. So all you're seeing is the temperature. So if there's privacy concerns there, the person's visible face is masked out. Now on option number 2, the background, anything in the background is masked out. However, the person's face is visible as well as their temperature. And then the third option is if you want to just black everything out and just see the temperature reading for privacy concerns. So this would be, maybe if you have a monitor that's visible to everybody that's coming through, to be able to mask that out, so to protect people's privacy. Okay, so another application that is great for this solution is warehouses. And there's many warehousing and logistics centers with employees who were continuing to work during the stay-at-home initiatives because they were essential businesses. And the temperature monitoring solution can really help provide a time-efficient way to assess potentially high temperatures of large groups of people without having the personal contact. So this is really great for mitigating risk of a potential sick worker from actually entering the building or getting too far into the building, because like I said, this is indoor application. So having this available right when the employees come into the building, and then having a stanchion set up, as I mentioned, to allow their body to get back to normal after coming in from the heat, really helps in the accuracy. So this would prevent any potentially sick employee from going into work and checking in and potentially contaminating other people. And it could be something that you want to set up too throughout the building. If it's a very large warehouse, you may want to put in some various checkpoints or of areas where there's people coming through a lot during the day, just as an extra checkpoint. So that's a possibility as well. And actually, according to CNET.com, Amazon is using this technology as a preventative measure to support the health and safety of their employees. So using this has allowed that essential business to contain the virus's spread without having to shut down its warehousing. So another place, this is a manufacturer of cosmetics that's using our solution. And so as you can see here, this warehouse facility has the stanchions set up. And a pain point that they had once they installed the system was that some employees were detecting very high skin temperatures when they were coming in from the desert heat. So what they ended up doing is they ended up deploying the stanchion so that the bodies had enough time to readjust from walking from outside to inside the building. And from their feedback, they were saying that this was taking anywhere between 1 to 5 minutes. So having that there so that you can have the time to have somebody's body cool down, especially when they're coming in from, elements from the outside, is really helpful for the accuracy so that you're not having to recheck every single person that's coming through. And this here is just an example of the screenshot from the makeup retailer warehouse. So if you can see here on the right-hand side, what it's doing is it's capturing, it's detecting the person's face here and then indicating what their temperature was. And it's also giving the statistics from the day of how many were abnormal, how many were normal. And then if somebody's temperature is above the defined range, it will automatically send an alert and then a capture of that person's face so you know who to look for. So this is actually a video that I'll play. Okay, so that was just a highlight of this particular facility showing the people coming through the stanchion and measuring their temperature. So key components. So before I go any further, I just want to cover a couple disclaimers about the solution. So the Dahua thermal temperature monitoring solution is not FDA cleared or approved and is not to be used in diagnosing COVID-19 or any other type of disease. These devices that we're talking about today are designed as a screening tool to detect elevated body temperature, and fevers should always be confirmed with a secondary thermometer, as I mentioned earlier. So the first component that we recommend is our 16-channel 1U AI network video recorder. So this is a 4 terabyte. It does have that ePoE technology, 320 mega bits of information there. The camera does require 2 channels on this NVR. So like I said, because it's a hybrid, you're going to be using one of those channels for your thermal, and then the other channel is going to be used for your visible lens. And also the 4 channel, there's 4 channels that can be used for face detection, and 1 through 8 PoE ports support the ePoE and Ethernet over coax, and also alarm outputs can be triggered externally so that when a temperature is over the defined specification, that it can send an automatic alert. So here is just a video I'm going to play. So in this video, we're going to show how to set up the face detection and the human temperature alarm So once the setup is complete, it's going to show when someone hits the high set temperature, and then you'll see an alarm pop up. So you can see the temperature that's being read there. And then this gentleman comes into the screen, and he's just going to warm up his hands to try and trigger the alarm to make it go hotter. And there you saw that it came up that it was triggered, that his temperature was above normal. And then it also showed his face right down here. So the second component in the solution that you need is, like I mentioned, is this dual lens camera with this hybrid technology. So the thermal portion of the camera is 300 by 400 in resolution, and the visible sensor side is a 2 megapixel resolution, and it does support motion detection and thermal color palettes. So the accuracy, as I indicated, when using it with a black body, it's going to be 0.54 degrees Fahrenheit, the industry standard. And it does have an SD card slot up to 256 gigabyte, and it is IP67 rated. So your visible lens is going to be 8 millimeters, and it also has IR. So it does do up to 114 feet of IR. So if you're using this in, for standard surveillance, the IR, that's very helpful in low light. And then your thermal lens is 13 millimeters. And what's great is that your visible lens side, it also does have that wide dynamic range. So it's good for those applications where you're getting lights and darks, and it does have true day night. Another feature is it's H.265/264. Okay, so I'm not going to go into every single spec, but I do want to go through some of the most important ones that will have the biggest impact in making your decision if you are comparing camera options. So as I mentioned, the visible resolution is 2 megapixel and 8 millimeter lens. And your thermal resolution is going to be 300 by 400 with a 13 millimeter thermal lens. So the higher the resolution, the better the image is going to be, because the more pixels you will have, the more data points you're going to have. So when you look at the camera's resolution, you can see that, as I mentioned, it is 300 by 400 for the thermal side. So this is just important because when you're measuring the canthus area of the eye, because it's so small, you want to make sure that you are getting the most resolution as possible. So that's very important with this kind of a camera, that you have decent resolution on the thermal side. So basically, the more temperature information that you have, the better the measurement you're going to have, and therefore the higher the accuracy is going to be. And as I mentioned, the accuracy is 0.54. Another important spec that you'll want to look at is the NETD, and as well as the aperture. So the less noise, the better. So this one is rated at 40 MK. And basically, the lower the number, the less noise, so the less false information or the higher accuracy you're going to have. So the lower the number, the camera can tell the difference between two data points for detecting temperature. So this is just an example of what this like microkelvins. This is an example of 60 as compared to 80. So it's really the difference there of, between measuring something and just detecting it. So the 80, you're going to be able to detect. There's a lot of noise in there, as you can see, as compared to 60. It's much more crisp and cleaner. So the ability to measure is going to be much greater. So really, the lower the sensitivity, the better the camera can detect, and the minimum temperature differences for visual reference. So if you are comparing cameras, 40 microkelvin is going to be much better than maybe a 50 or a 60. And then the other thing is the aperture. So f1.0 is the best, and that's how bright the lens is. So the smaller the number, the better. So this is very good as far as f1.0. Another spec to look at is your pixel size, and this is really just the distance between your pixels so that you have better resolution. So again, the smaller the number, the better. So this particular camera is between 8 to 14. Applications, this is great for, again, where you just talked about that larger facilities environment. This can be used in an uncontrolled environment. So, if you do have an application like a warehouse where drafts from air may vary, making sure that you use it with a black body is going to be very important. It can detect up to 23 feet away and up to 12 feet wide. And it's ideal more for your constant flow of people. However, we do suggest a stanchion just to increase the highest accuracy of measurement. So for best practices, the camera should always be slightly higher, 0.65 to 1.6 feet higher than that of the black body, and the black body faces the camera and should be within its field of view. And the proper focus on the black body is really essential to getting accurate measurements. So for a black body to really be effective, it has to be mounted in the same plane as the person being screened. So if it's going to be significant closer or further from the person that's being screened, it's going to end up being out of focus and not function as an accurate reference source. So you really want to make sure you take that into consideration and follow all the setup instructions. So we recommend the distance between the camera and the black body is 9.8 feet. And then the height setup will vary slightly. So we give you a range there just to make it a little bit more flexible, and just depending on your application and how you're mounting. So again, as I mentioned, it's important to plan out the system just prior to deploying it. And for example, it's best to avoid deploying it in any type of direct sunlight, reflective surfaces, high ambient temperature, or in areas that have a strong airflow, if at all possible, such as air conditioning, vents, and that type of thing. And again, the other tip is to use a stanchion. And the reason for that, again, it's just because the warmth of either of a person's skin can be very different compared to their body core heat. And plus, with people that maybe have a heavier build health conditions. They may be getting hot flashes, or again, as they walk in from a very hot car, it could trigger the system's alarm. So having that availability to allow their bodies to cool, you're just going to get a higher accuracy. So it's just best to delay your visitors if at all possible. The other thing that is recommended is to have the person face directly towards the camera as they walk through the stanchion, if that's at all possible, because you are going to get a better accuracy versus the person walking in motion or possibly turning to the side. Because again, we're trying to get the camera to focus on the canthus. Otherwise, you're going to get the skin temperature, which won't be quite as accurate. But these are just best practices. So talking about the black body a little bit more. So the accuracy is the most important part of the solution, and without the black body, you are going to be compromising the accuracy. So the black body, which is really the calibrator, shows the known temperature, and then it continues to recalibrate due to changes of ambient temperature, such as humidity and emissivity of the skin. So it's always reading on the highest accuracy. So when you're setting up the device, you're going to need to draw a rectangular box along the highlighted edge of the black body. So that's this right down in here, right there where it's blinking. You have to draw your box inside of there on the yellow, not outside of it, because that's going to affect your accuracy there. So when you draw the black body radiation surface, the bounding box just needs to be touching all of the yellow and nothing outside of that. So that's just a tip to help with the accuracy. So we have a couple different ways that you can install the Blackbody device. We have a wall or a ceiling mount that you can use, and then also a longer ceiling mount that we'll be launching within the next week or so. And then if you need flexibility and you want to be able to position your system, at different places, or you might need to move it around, you might consider just using tripods instead of a permanent mounting solution. And here's just a close-up shot. If you do use the tripod, you're going to need these plates here, again, so that they're on the same plane. So they will need to be installed. And again, the camera faces the black body, and the black body, it's not PoE. It just plugs in. It doesn't need to have any special connector to or PoE. So here is just a screenshot of the system, and I'm just showing here that you can change the unit of temperature. So whether you want to do it in Celsius or Fahrenheit, you have that ability here to do that. 3 ways to mount. So the camera can also be mounted any one of these ways. So again, using the tripod, the ceiling or wall mount is possible. So overall, the full solution here, you can see the camera is MSRP $13,799.99. The black body is on about $6,000, and then you'll need your NVR. So at this time, we only recommend this NVR, $1499.99. And then we have display switches and other mounting options, whatever one you choose there. So give or take, just depending on the way you decide to mount, and if you include any other accessories, your total solution is going to be around 22,000 MSRP. So, I mean, at first glance, that does seem, kind of, high. It is, our high-end solution. However, the best thing about this is that it's going to pay for itself basically in a year if you prorate it. So I just did a little bit of calculation here. So if you take into consideration buying the camera, the NVR, the mounts and the Blackbody, again, it's going to be around $22,000. And if you decide to add on a monitor or anything else, you would just add, that would be additional. So if you consider, having somebody do the handheld thermometer, just prorating it, let's just say it's $1 a day, just depending, and you do need to have a decent handheld thermometer with a very high accuracy. So let's just say it's $1 a day prorated. You're not going to have any installation there, but you do have to hire an individual person to take the temperature, record that information, and, or enter it into a system or whatever it is. So, you're paying them an hourly rate. Let's just say, $15 an hour, $75 a day. Workers, protective gear, so your mask, your gown, gloves, anything like that to keep that person that's taking those temperatures safe. So let's prorate that to maybe $2 a day. So over a year, per day, over a year, $78 a day. Let's just say, that's very, very, very on the low side. So in a year's time, $28,000. Therefore, with the investment, the one-time investment, it more than pays for itself in 1 year. And not to mention, you can use this for standard surveillance as well as, being a proactive approach for flu season, and any other pandemic that's going to come, 2 years from now, as they've been coming just about every 2 years. So overall, these are the benefits summary. Fast screening without any type of personal contact, accurate, very efficient monitoring, visual alert when over temperature is detected, the EPOE solution, so you can deploy at a longer transmission range and also over coax. So we do integrate with various third-party VMS solutions. So here's a list of everybody that we're working with right now. We do have others that we're in the process of going through and getting that integration done. So if the VMS that you use isn't on the list, just let us know and we'll work with you. Okay, so getting to the 5-megapixel mask detection camera that has active alarm. So I'm sure you've noticed throughout, going out that face masks are required. You can't go into certain stores without having a face mask. It's all over the place. So instead of, having somebody troll customers as they walk through the door, and having to stop what they're doing and, being inefficient and then interrupting maybe another customer's interaction to tell, somebody, hey, you need to wear a mask. This just makes it easy. So you could easily install this right inside your entryway, and as it detects somebody coming through, it just alerts with an audio recording, to put your mask on. So this camera has a 5-megapixel sensor, and it can do 20 frames per second at 5 megapixel, 2.8 millimeter lens. It does have Starlight technology, true wide dynamic range, so that's great if you are putting it in the front of a store where you're going to have maybe some reflection from the sun or people opening and closing the door from sun glare, dark shadows, so it'll be good in that type of environment. It does have IR, so up to 98 feet if you're deploying it in a dark environment, and Arctic Pro technology, so it can be deployed in applications down to minus 40 degrees. It has the dual smart codec, so it's going to save you up to 90% in storage and bandwidth compared to H.264. It's IK10 rated, IP67, and does have an SD card slot. So you can easily get real-time alerts and keep in the know as to what's going on with our free DMSS app. So I'm just going to play this video for you. This is it just deployed in our offices. Okay, so if you could tell from that video, it's just sounding an alarm, and then they had, you know, this notice to put your mask on. However, the one that we are going to be launching will have the ability to send a recording that indicates, you know, to put your mask on. And another video just showing that it can detect one person not wearing a mask, even if everybody else is. And it just shows us a capture of the person that's not wearing their mask on the recorded side. Okay, so overall, as far as any type of a hospital or a medical facility, as I mentioned, just as a recap, so the hybrid temperature monitoring solution is best for indoors. You could place that just inside your doors, again, trying to stay away from breezes and that type of thing. But, you know, at your entrance of a medical center, the mask detection camera could be deployed at the, you know, right as you walk through the door or anywhere throughout the medical center. Again, just because it works as a standard security camera, but it also has that algorithm just to detect if the mask is not being worn. So you can deploy that really anywhere in your facility. And also we have this temperature station, and that could be easily deployed in maybe a back entrance area where, you know, an employee entrance, that type of thing. And Damon's going to talk a little bit more about that particular product. As far as warehouses go, again, the monitoring solution is great for right inside the entrance, deploying it with the stanchion, and you could use the temperature station in a smaller area, or, you know, maybe not the main entrance, but a, I don't know, like a vendor entrance or something on those lines. And then the mask detector camera could be deployed anywhere throughout your facility. So we have a number of different deliverables. We have a website that has a landing page that has all kinds of information on setup. It also has brochures that you can download so that you can give to your customers. Also, the website has data sheets, A&E specs as well, and videos. And then we also have a specific application for healthcare, and then we have one specifically for warehouse and logistics. So please get on our website to get all of that great information.
Okay, so as Jennifer mentioned, you know, we have that full thermal body solution with the Blackbody box, with the thermal cameras. Just to give you guys an update, this does work with the DSS Pro and Express at this time, and you can use their DVR or NVR that we talked about here, the NVR 5216. So this is kind of our total solution where you can see the screens on the client side or on the local NVR display. Second one is the mask detection camera. As Jennifer mentioned, this will be available coming soon. So again, this will work with the same NVR and also with the DSS software. All right, now we have this customer flow controls entrance system. So this is our system where we're using people counting cameras to do a people count, so you can set a threshold of how much you know, people are allowed into a certain area of a building. So with this, we can output the display from our NVR to an external monitor, or we can also put this signal onto a digital signage that we'll be releasing soon. So this is the third option is the temperature monitoring station. So again, this is really good for smaller deployments because you're doing it's more of a one-off person, so one person at a time will be measured. It does have a quick temperature monitoring mode. So once this is enabled, it's like half a second for temperature to get screened. There is face recognition and face ID for database for employees. And there's also a mask detection function with this temperature station. So Jennifer covered the NVR side. This is where you can see the you set the thresholds with the camera. You set the temperature and you get the notification and updates. So this is the DSS Express software. This is new to the line. With the software, you can get real-time display with pop-up alarms, alarm linkages, and you get data, statistics, and reports. So currently, with the temperature station, the DSS Express supports a maximum of 16 units, so it can support 16 face stations. So if you need more than 16 face stations, you'll have to wait for the support on the DSS Pro. So DSS Pro is available now, but support for the temperature station will be coming soon. So the maximum for the DSS Pro is 200 stations per subserver. And it also works with our DMSS app. This is a brand new app. It's a mobile app you can put on your iPad or iPhone, and you get alerts with screenshots and temperature displays. And here's the product list for that solution, the DSS Express software, where you would need a base license, the NVR, and the free DMSS mobile app. Okay, some of the applications we'll cover, like Jennifer mentioned, the hospitals, smaller clinics, warehouses, and how these 4 solutions can be used in these applications. So, I'll quickly go over these. So for the background, CDC does have guidelines right now. You can see these on their website, on the cdc.gov website. So one of them, the guidelines is for temperature checks to be available. So this is kind of our topology system we have for that check. So we have, like, for a hospital, you have a staff entrance, outpatient building area, maybe some segregated areas or some waiting areas. So this solution could be used for this specific deployment for a hospital. So example, for a hospital, there'd be like a staff entrance where you can put in the station, the temperature station. So you do a temperature check. You can also remind them if you have a mask on, or you can have a face identification with the database. So this is just one setup for a hospital staff entrance. And here's another one for a like an outpatient building entrance where you can set up stanchions. So this would be more for like the full body solution, full temperature solution with a Blackbody box. This is where you have lots of people coming in and out of the area. So this is more for like a higher flow area. Now the with the face station, temperature station, you can also use that for the outpatient area, just for like a smaller area for low traffic flow. So this would be like a one person at a time instead of a bunch of people coming in at once. So this would be a great solution for that. Another solution for a hospital would be the mask detection camera. So in a hospital lobby area or waiting area, you can have these set up as well to remind customers or guests to put on a face mask. If it detects that someone's not wearing it, it will have a audio notification that'll tell you to please put on a face covering. Now the flow control we have, like I mentioned before, it limits the amount of people that can be enter in a certain area. So this flow control solution could be great for like a cafeteria area inside a hospital where you want to limit the risk. There's a lot of some of the CDC guidelines right now are asking people to set capacities to 50%. So this would be great to control the amount of people that are entering this area. So again, you can set the threshold with the people counting camera, and you can have the display outputs from the NVR side or the software side to an external monitor. As Jennifer mentioned, you know, this would be great for warehouses, you know, logistic hubs. So a solution for this would be the temperature station, that monitoring solution she mentioned, she talked about today. And we can also use the face mask detection camera along with a temperature station for warehouse entrance or office buildings. So Jennifer covered this section with the warehouse entrances on going through like a stanchion or a detection area. So places where lots of flow, people flow, it'd be better to use the full solution with the Blackbody box. If you have a smaller setup, smaller flow, the better solution may be the temperature station. Again, for the station, you know, you could use it for a smaller office building. That'd be a great solution for that. And even for a logistics hub, you know, just to remind the workers to wear a mask with their mask detection cameras. So yeah, so the software that I mentioned is the DSS Express. So here you can see, here's a couple screenshots where you can see real-time displays and audio pop-ups of the alarms, you know, of the face mask, you know, higher temperature recordings. Yeah, so please join us for our next webinar. That is next Wednesday. We'll open it up for best practices for opening casinos and banking businesses. So yeah,